Welcome back to our GeoSteering explanation. We're going to actually go into the system now and actually do GeoSteering. We're going to hit the Start button, go to the Well Setup screen, go select our test file. Everything seems to be good. Return back. Click on the green GeoSteering button. I'll enter a bit of data to start with, a few depths, and actually start bringing something up that I can explain to you on the screen here. The vertical grid you see in front of you contains two plots. The black line is the offset gamma ray. Black will always indicate the offset gamma ray. The multicolored gamma ray plot is the MWD gamma ray from our current well. The colors indicate the actual correlation blocks that have already been defined within the system. Any magenta that you see showing up in the LWD curve indicates an uncorrelated section of the gamma ray. Over in the well bore, you see the dark red well bore line with blue circles on it indicating the actual points of survey data. The correlation blocks appear as multicolored lines across the well bore plot. A single line indicates an inclination of the well bore less than 85 degrees. So single lines show where the correlation blocks are, but there is no bottom to them. When you get down in excess of 85 degrees, then you begin to see the bottom part of the correlation block showing up as well. Below, we have the gamma ray corresponding to this section of the well bore. The gamma ray is also colored in the exact same color as the correlation blocks, showing you which section of gamma ray pertains to which correlation block. Again, we have the black correlation block, we have the green, we have the gold, and we have the salmon color right there showing where the landing actually occurred. In order to assist us with correlation, we have many controls on this page. Let's start in the upper left-hand corner with the depth setup. The depth setup, starting and ending depths, simply give you a place to zoom to up to 1,000 feet of the offset well. Initially, both the offset and current LWD data are displayed in the depths selected. From this point forward, we'll be discussing these starting and ending depths relative to either the offset gamma ray or to the LWD gamma ray. That may be a little confusing, but hopefully it will become a bit more clear as we go forward. Below that, we have the definitions that we can do to the correlation blocks that we define. We can change the starting point of a correlation block that's already been defined. We can reduce the ending of a correlation block that's been defined. We can change the compression ratio on our correlation block, and we can also change the gamma ray filtering on the block. We can also change the gamma ray filtering on our offset well as well in order to help facilitate a more clean correlation. The correlation blocks are defined down here in the core block area. We can edit a correlation block. We can view the correlation blocks that we have already created, and we can, of course, save our correlation blocks. Any unsaved correlation that you're working on is always indicated in green. After you save the block, it goes to red. Let me click on the View button, and you can see what correlation blocks have already been created within the system. The red button on the bottom allows you to delete the last correlation blocks. In fact, if you continue to hit the delete key, you could conceivably erase every correlation that you have in your correlation file. Across the top of the screen, we show the legend for our current offset well as a black line. The magenta indicates the current LWD line. The target top, feet above and feet below, define the area of the grid that you actually want to correlate on in front of you. We'll go into that in much more detail in a moment. In order to allow us to put LWD data on the screen that we can correlate to, I can use this LWD adder and add more footage to the screen to allow us to correlate with. You'll see that a bit more later on. To help with the correlation, we can change the angle of correlation, which is directly a function of the compression ratio, by the way. We can change the TVD. We can move it up or move it down, also working in correlation with the actual movement of the correlation block over here on the grid. You'll see that later on as well. We can change the thickness of the bed, and we can add correlation markers that indicate where that correlation block is appearing down here in our offset, in our current LWD gamma ray. And finally, we'll be able to actually look at the cross-section that we're creating as we do our geosteering throughout the entire geosteering process. For now, let me go ahead and add a couple of thousand feet to our display. I hit the zoom button. The magenta line comes up showing that this is uncorrelated LWD gamma ray. I want to define exactly where I want to begin our correlation. So I define a target to correlate against. Well, I happen to know that our landing zone, which is the target for right now, so I'm going to click on this yellow button and come up here and click where I know the target to be. A blue line then indicates our target selection. Now I need to define the section of gamma ray I want to correlate with. So I'm going to click the blue V-top button and go up and double click right there. Notice I am leaving a little bit of space only because I don't want to get on that black line. Plus I want you to be able to see the green line indicating the top of our correlation block. Then I need to define the bottom of our block, and I'm going to click on VBOT and double click right there, and the system immediately shows you the correlation gamma ray you have just chosen. At this point, we now can begin the actual correlation process. We've already defined where our target is, as indicated by 8399 in target top. Now I'm going to say use that target by checking the Use Target checkbox and hit the zoom button. We now see displayed for us over here on in the grid screen where the target was, and we have 100 feet above it and 50 feet below it. In fact, we can, by default, the way the system came up, we just about have correlation there right now at that given interval. So I'm going to leave it there for this moment and explain to you a bit more what we have in the wellbore itself. You can see two previous correlation blocks, one in brown. The top of the block is always indicated by a thicker line than the bottom of the bed. There's the brown. There is a gray correlation block right there. There's a slight gap between the current correlation block and the previous because, again, I wanted to show you what that green line looked like. So given that, I'm going to put the correlation markers on it, and just to kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like, I'll increase or decrease the thickness of the bed by 1 foot and show you what the correlation markers look like. And you can look down here and see across the horizontal gamma ray where that gamma ray actually is marked for correlation in depth. We can also change the TVD from here if you wish by simply moving a TVD up or moving a TVD down. You can change the angle by changing the angle here of the block. Or I could change the angle over here, obviously, by the compression, because it's actually relative to compression more than anything else. It changes the TVD point of the very end point that we see here in our correlation selection. Let me put it back where it was, because I happen to know that's where the actual correlation is. And at this point, I think I'm pretty happy with the way the correlation looks. I'm going to click Save. The red light comes on, indicating that we have saved the data now to our data file. I'm going to click on Cross Section, and we can look at what we have created so far with correlations within our current wellbore. And here we have it. The red line across the top is the total gas line, which we imported much earlier in the presentations. Below, on the bottom, we have the magenta indicating the current gamma ray for the well, and the white is the ROP. Now, obviously, we have imported data from a complete well. What I have done for demo purposes is simply remove all of the surveys out past the point where I wanted to show you how to begin this correlation. The wellbore here looks pretty much the same as before. It's a dark red line with blue dots for the surveys, and the blue line indicates the top and bottom of our formation. That's a very basic introduction into how we do geosteering with the system. In subsequent versions of the videos, I will go into more detail of correlation with the geosteering system and how to edit the data that you've already saved, as well as looking at the type log data for the ROP, the gas, and so on a separate screen. So that's what you have upcoming, and that's going to be it for now. Thank you.